Okay, welcome everybody to this little professional principles segment. Today we're going to talk about tuning up our team and how to maximize our volume to achieve our goals. So I am Melina Harrison. I've been building this business for 7 years, and so I've learned a few things along the way that I'm excited to share with you today. I'm also a wife and a busy mother of 4 little children from the ages of 2 through 11, and so because I have a life outside of doTERRA, believe it or not, I've tried to create a business that is efficient. When I work, I really want to make sure that I'm working not just hard, but also smart so that I'm getting the maximum return for my efforts and for that investment into my team. And so I want to look at some ways that we can make our teams, just tune them up a little bit so that they can work a little more efficiently. And that's what we're going to share with you guys today. So let me get this to move to the next slide. There we go, there's me. Okay, so as we are, we're on this journey in life and we're set to achieve specific goals. In doTERRA, I kind of want to set our sights on Diamond because I think that's one of, anyone that's really serious about building this business is set on achieving Diamond. And that might include other goals like, becoming healthier, having more time freedom to spend with your family, having more financial freedom, whatever it is, you're on this path to achieving those goals. And along with that, doTERRA is also, it just kind of becomes this vehicle that takes you down that path to achieve your goals. So in order for you to ride on this journey smoothly, you want to make sure that your vehicle has proper care. It has gasoline and tune-ups, everything else. And if we're going to look at a Diamond organization, this means that this vehicle that you're going on your journey with needs 4 tires that are spinning in the same direction so that you're all moving forward together. It doesn't really matter how fast one tire is spinning if the other 3 are going in a completely opposite direction, right? So you're really not going to be able to get anywhere unless everybody is aligned and moving together. This is why it's really important for you to have clear conversations within 14 days of enrolling someone before you place them. Because if they're a bicycle tire, for example, then you can put them on a bike and you can ride around your neighborhood, but you would never expect a bike tire to help get your car across the country. So you need to make sure that you're communicating clearly so that you can identify what your new enrollment wants so that they can be placed according to their needs and not according to your neediness and the position that you're wanting them to fill. You also really need to communicate your expectations. I've seen so many people that get placed as a builder because they said that they wanted to build, but they don't really even understand what that means. They're thinking maybe, well, yeah, I like oils and I like money, so yeah, I'll build a business with you. And then they're in this builder position and we come to find out like they don't actually really like people. And so that's a problem. Or, they don't want to go to events. They don't want to teach. They don't want to mentor. They don't want to be on calls. They just like oils and, that's the extent of it. So we really want to make sure that we're clear about what that means. So I really suggest using a leadership agreement so that we're properly communicating what building this business means and what it means to you. Now, I created one of these almost 6 years ago after I had just worked my guts out to build a team under someone that kept saying, they're all in. She wanted to hit Diamond. She had all of these goals, but then she also had a lot of excuses, and it just seemed like one excuse after another. So I continued to work. I enrolled a majority of the team. I was pushing, and teaching the events. I was mentoring the people. And as the team started to grow bigger and bigger, it felt like instead of this car moving forward like it was supposed to, like a smooth moving operating machine, right? I felt like I was pushing a car up a hill. And if I let go at any time, not only was I going to lose everything that I had worked for, but I was going to get run over in the process, and it was going to be a painful experience. So I couldn't really manage all of it on my own, so I started to refer any emails or calls, I started to refer them back to her. And then the month I decided to push for Diamond, she decided that she just wanted to be a casual sharer, and she didn't really want to build. And I remember just my dreams being crushed, and I was so frustrated. And I was like, well, you told me you wanted to be a builder. Like, you fought for this position. I was going to place you on my second level. And, you said you wanted to be diamond. And, as we discussed, I remember her telling me, well, I never agreed to this, or I never agreed to that. And I had a very different memory of the conversations that we had than she had. And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't really matter what you say. People hear what they want to hear, and they remember what they want to remember. So having it written prevents any misunderstandings of what's expected. And this is really not a crazy thought. Any other business partnership and any other, relationship that I could think of, it would be really crazy just to open up a business together without discussing what that meant. For example, let's say we wanted to, open a restaurant on Monday together. I wouldn't say, well, you like food and I like food, let's open a restaurant on Monday. We would sit down and we would talk about whose responsibilities are whose. And if I was the one that was doing all the hiring, taking care of the menus, making sure, training everybody, and you just showed up once a month and collected the check, that wouldn't really be a real partnership. So that wouldn't work. But for some reason in doTERRA, we shy away from talking about this, and then we're putting people into positions that really are not best suited for them. So we want to make sure that we do have those conversations. Even if you're hired for a job, there's usually a job description, and people, know exactly what you're being hired for. So if you haven't already had these conversations, it may be a really good time to do that. Now, you do have to be clear. You can't walk in and say, okay, I've never set expectations before, so you can't just call them up and say, well, your position requires X, Y, Z, right? In fact, you really can't require anything. And if you go about it that way, then oftentimes you're going to get the opposite result of what you're trying to achieve. What I've noticed is people don't actually like to be told to do what to do. And this is just people in general, but specifically in our industry, one of the appeals of doTERRA is you get to work for yourself. You don't have a boss. So as soon as we try to start telling people what to do, oftentimes they'll rebel against us. Even if it fits into their goals, they'll subconsciously, they try to just really dig their heels in and prove that they don't have to do what we say. But if they're the ones that are part of creating the plan and they agree to certain expectations, then you have something to lean on. So make sure that you're creating clear communication with that. You also have to have two-way value. If a builder position on your team has a lot more expectations and there's more responsibility and pressure without any extra benefit, then why would somebody want that builder position? You're probably going to hear something like, well, I'll just share for now, and then maybe in the future I might do more. They really don't want to commit to anything and then kind of be held to that if they're not really sure what they want to do. So I'm always really purposeful to tell people that, these builder positions, these are the positions that we partner with. It's where we invest a majority of our time and resources so that we can help you every step of the way to help ensure your success. And so you're creating value in that real estate. I've had some people that were really interested in sharing, but when they saw everything that came along with the builder position, they thought, oh, well, if you're going to help me and you're going to focus on me, yeah, okay, I can commit to that. I can do that. And it really steps up their level of commitment when they see the value in it for them to be partnered with you. So make sure that you're creating that. What does it mean? Does it mean that you're you'll respond to them first? I actually have a VIP email set for all my VIP business partners. It's a separate email so that I can ensure that I respond promptly to them and I don't ever miss any of their emails amongst all the other emails that I get. So what are you bringing to the partnership that gives them a reason to commit to wanting to build with you? How committed are you? The other thing you really want to look at is nobody's going to jump full into a business with someone that they perceive as doing this as a hobby or something that maybe you're just trying out for a little bit. So really be clear about your level of commitment in building this business and that you're committed to do it until you reach your goals and not just until you get bored of it or until things get hard. So, maybe call them up and say, hey, I just returned from an event or a meeting or whatever. Now I'm really inspired by what's possible with doTERRA. Or maybe let them know I'm part of this program and it's shown me what's possible with doTERRA and also the step-by-step process on how to accomplish my goals. I'm really excited for the future and I'm 100% committed to creating financial freedom for my family, or insert whatever it is that your goal is and why. So let them know that you're all in, with or without them. There's no pressure. Your commitment does not hinge on their response on whether or not they want to do this, because you really, your takeaway, creating value in the opportunity and the takeaway is a lot more valuable than trying to convince them to join you in this journey. So you might want to say something like, I really want to ensure that I'm spending my time and resources efficiently. So I'm looking for a couple people to partner with so that I can focus on helping them achieve their goals as well. So the conversation, it's even more valuable if you have these, if you have something to leverage, how you're starting a new program, or you've got an incentive, or you're investing into something, or you've got a new enrollment that you're looking to place, but you want to ensure that you're placing them underneath someone that is committed to ensuring that that team continues to grow and that it's going to get the support that they need, and so on. So you really want to create value in that for them, so they know, why it matters whether they say, yes, I want to be one of these key people that you're focusing on. It's also really great to get them set up on a three-way call with your upline so that they can help build credibility in the business opportunity. They can clarify the goals of your new enrollment, or maybe one of your qualifying legs that you're going back to, because maybe you've built to silver or something, or you built this far on your own with a sharer, or people just kind of got placed. It might be a good time to go back and talk to them and maybe get them on that three-way call and really get clarity on their goals and their commitment. A three-way call with your upline that can also help edify you as the amazing leader that you are, so that you have a little bit more clout with your new builder. So whatever you choose to do, this is going to really help, or however that conversation goes. Your main goal is to create value so that you ensure the 4 tires that you're driving, your vehicle of doTERRA down your journey, they're all pointed in the same direction and they're focused on the same goals, okay? So sometimes you might have, a really great tire that travels a few miles, and then one day as you're driving along, it just goes flat, right? So the question here is really, do you have a backup plan, or is your journey just going to come to a complete stop? Now, if you've had that clear conversation when you're placing people, then it makes it really simple to revisit this. Now, if you have a written agreement like I suggested, it's even better. So my agreement that I have with them, it lists daily, weekly, monthly expectations. It's nothing crazy, and it really doesn't matter what yours says. It doesn't have to be the same as mine, but it does need to be clear on what you expect. So mine lists pretty much the same things that we teach everyone. 30 minutes of personal development each day, 30 minutes of business training, 2 contacts a day, 2 follow-ups a day, at least 1 event a week, at least 3 enrollments a month. They're expected to attend convention and any other events that they qualify for. I also really like to explain that we know that things don't always they don't always go the way that we plan, and so we understand that, and we're flexible. So they don't feel like it's something we're holding over their head. Like if there comes a time where they didn't teach a class that week, we're not going to try to kick them out of here. Like, you're out of here, you messed up. But we want them to know that it's flexible. These are just the standard expectations. However, if there comes a time that they're no longer able or willing to continue to grow and support their team, or there's no volume contribution from them for a couple months in a row, then we're going to look at other ways, and they agree to help us come to a solution that can create another option for how their team can continue to receive the support that they deserve, whether that means gifting their position or enrollments or whatnot. So they're really clear on that from the get-go, that they're committed. And like I said, the point isn't to kick them out of their spot, but it's because we understand that things happen. Sometimes people move, they get married, people die, whatever. Things just change. And we want to know that we're creating a 2-way partnership so we can invest fully into them. But when things aren't really happening like we want them to, then it's a simple guide to revisit and go through the list of things that, that they agreed to, and we can see which ones have fallen through the cracks. So you can help guide them on how to better achieve these things so that they're seeing the results that they want. And it also creates that immediate spotlight when someone thinks that they're all in and then realizes, oh my gosh, this might be more work than I thought. It's more than just placing an LRP order. Or, maybe they realize that they're actually less self-motivated than they thought. So instead of continuing to chase them for the next year or 2 years or whatever to try to help them build their team, you just go through the agreement. And if it's one excuse after another, it's easy to say, you know, it looks like this really doesn't seem like it's fitting into your life like you initially thought. What do you suggest we do from here? And I've done this a lot of times with, you know, many friends and you know, people that I've just enrolled, people maybe that are in the position for a few months. And it's really a great way to proceed to the next step without hurting any relationships. We haven't had relationships damaged from using this. The only time I had relationship damage is when someone was put in a spot that really wasn't suited for them. And like they sit there for 2 years and then we get fed up and we try to make a change. That doesn't usually go over well because they're comfortable just sitting there. So this really helps provide you know, really good communication. And so I've done this a lot of times, and they either decide, yeah, you know, it's a bit more than I can chew, so I think I, you know, jumped in too far, I'm in over my head, and they see that it's not fair for the team. Or maybe they say, you know what, I'm sorry, I haven't really been great at time management, but give me 1 more month. I really am committed to this. Let me show you, you know, I've just been struggling here. I think I figured it out. I really can do this. And so it just really clears that up for you. But one of the things that I hear most often is that people are worried about is that they don't really want to feel like they're harassing people. Nobody really wants to do that. And so when you have proper communication and the standard is set and it's really clear, then you're not chasing anybody or harassing anybody. You're just going back to something that they've already agreed to. So it lets them know that this is, again, that two-way partnership. It creates trust between us so that I can pour into their team knowing that it's a worthwhile investment and that it's not something that they're going to work out for a few months and then check out after that. So obviously, you know, once they hit diamond, they can check out however much they want, or they can slow down. There's no obligation for them to work forever, obviously. It's just, you know, usually we want to make sure that we're clear on that standard, and by the time they hit diamond, they're clear on their mission. They're, you know, really deeply rooted in doTERRA culture, so they'll probably never stop building anyways. But anyways, I digress. Let's talk about some of the options we have for tuning up your team. Once you've had that really clear communication, you've set those standards from the beginning. So again, if you found that you really haven't properly communicated, you just sort of put people in the order that they enrolled, then now is a good time to go and look at that and have those conversations, get some three-way calls set up. So if you're preparing some, you know, if you're prepared with some alternate options, then when you get that flat tire, instead of your journey coming to a stop or getting thrown off course, you can just adjust and keep moving. So the first thing that we want to do is have that crucial conversation and review the responsibilities of their position and really identify whether they're truly committed to staying there and leading their team, or maybe, you know, they hit some rough terrain and they just need a little patching up and some fresh air pumped into them, or whether maybe it's time to look at other options. So even if you can clearly see that they shouldn't be there, it's really not up to you. I want to make sure that we emphasize that it's not your choice. They do have to agree with whatever change is involved, okay? That leadership agreement is an agreement between you. It's not an agreement between them and doTERRA. So they still have to sign any necessary paperwork, but it just helps create a more clear understanding to make this process easier. So there's a couple options that we have. The first is an exception to move. So if they still, you know, want to grow, but maybe just a lot slower than the pace that was anticipated, you're going to need to decide whether it's worth it for you to continue to pour into that leg and make up for the extra work that they're not doing, or maybe it might be better to start another leg and just cruise with someone else that's on the same path as you. So this is done, so this is done just by you deciding. Now, if their team is rather small, then you might consider submitting an exception request for them and their entire team to move under another leg in your team. So to do this, you need to complete an exception request. That paperwork you can find just by Googling it, and you want to submit that to placements@doterra.com. Now, really, this is a phenomenal opportunity that we even have this option. Most companies, they thrive on breakage, but doTERRA is really committed to supporting their wellness advocates. So they actually gather an exceptions committee twice monthly to review any extenuating circumstances that fall outside of our placements policies to see if they can help us. And like, it just blows my mind that doTERRA even allows this as a process. So make sure that you pick your battles and you're not just asking for any and every exception. This really is for extenuating circumstances or something out there. So there's a couple rules. Before you submit any exception paperwork, you need to make sure that it is already signed by all 7 levels of the sponsor tree, and your enroller signatures need to be signed as well. I do want to clarify that the signatures do need to be by the person on the account. So for example, if you look in my back office, as you know, on my downline, you'll see the name of my account is EOPro LLC, right? But if you put EOPro LLC on the DocuSign and I click on it and it says EOPro LLC, they won't accept that. They need it to say Melina Harrison, because I'm the actual person that owns the account. So you can submit this and have people, you know, print it out, sign it, scan it, and email it back to you. I definitely recommend that you use DocuSign. You'll get a lot quicker response, because you're asking, you're applying for a favor, sometimes to move people out of their pay structure even, and it affects that. So they're doing you a favor. Not too many people that are really busy are going to want to go out of their way to print something and sign it and then scan it and send it back to you. So DocuSign will be a lot easier process for you. So I definitely recommend that, but it doesn't have to be. I also want to let you know that it will take a couple weeks sometimes for it to be reviewed, so be prepared for that. Now you can't, they will not normally accept an exception that completes a power of 3. So if you're trying to move this into a position, make sure that that power of 3 is already complete before you ask for that, because they don't like to complete power of 3. That's actually the highest paying bonus in doTERRA. It pays out 86% versus like a 34 or 35%. So they're not going to help you complete that. They also won't do anything that completes a rank. And this is just to help protect the bonus pools for those leadership ranks. Now, if you're helping complete an elite, you might think, well, that's not really a big deal, but that elite is helping a silver who's now qualifying for the silver bonus pool, or maybe it's helping a gold or a diamond. That silver helps the diamond qualify for diamond, so they're getting that diamond pool. Or maybe that silver helps the platinum, which gets, you know, the platinum pool, but maybe that's also helping a presidential diamond that's getting part of that. So doTERRA is very particular in protecting these bonus pools, because it's not fair to the rest of the people in those bonus pools if they're moving things around and switching things around so that those shares are split amongst more people. So they will make sure that it's not completing a rank. Now, I know, granted, anything that you're trying to move usually is going to add to somewhere that it matters. You just want to be careful that it's not completing a rank. So if it's an elite leg, then if you're at, 2,000 in volume and you're trying to move 1,000 in volume, that's going to complete an elite leg. So try to get that leg completed to elite and then maybe ask for the move. So you want to really look at that to increase your chances of having an exception be accepted. You also want to look at the volume amount. doTERRA really is dedicated to keeping people's commissions very constant, especially that unilevel. So they don't want volume bouncing all over the place, because that means that people's checks are not solid. If they're going to be like bouncing all over. So they won't move any significant volume. And they consider anything over 1,000 in volume to be significant. So if you're past that point, then if the leg you're trying to move is past that point, then you might want to look at it. Or if they're like at 950 or something, you might want to talk to them, offer an incentive to order the next month or something, or maybe return a couple orders, whatever you want to do. Just know that if it's over 1,000 in volume, it won't normally, they're not going to accept that, right? So you also need to show how this will be in the best interest of the person moving and the company, not just like, this will help me hit rank. Your reasons need to be clear and concise. I know that this is kind of common sense, but realize that they review hundreds of exceptions each month. So if you're not clear on what you're asking for, or if it's a novel that they have to read to try to, go through and understand what's going on, then it's likely going to be denied. So help them help you by making it really easy to see why it would be a good move to accept. Also, pick your battles. Don't use an exception on something that really won't make a big difference. And with that said, they're also really lenient on frontline cleanups. So many people, when they first get started building this business, they're not really clear on exceptions. And so they have a bunch of teams just strung across their front line. doTERRA will look at helping you clean that up, but they prefer that it's all listed in one exception instead of you submitting 6 different exceptions. So you want to take a look at your front line and look at maybe if there's some things that fall into these categories that could be cleaned up and consolidated to, you know, maybe instead of 3 legs of 300 in volume, you could consolidate them into 1 or whatnot. So take a look at that. Another option is also, you know, they could transfer out of their position. So you may have someone else that's really fully committed to building that would be a really great person to put in there to lead that team. So you can enroll them and then send an email to placements@doterra.com along with a transfer form that's been signed by both the builder and the person that you're putting in. And that does need to happen within 3 days of their enrollment. So this has to be a new enrollment, or it can be a wholesale customer that is upgrading. Okay, it can be either one of those. Now, if the wholesale customer is upgrading, if it's after 90 days of their enrollment, then they can transfer into any existing position within the enroller's organization. If it's before the 90 days of their enrollment and that wholesale customer is upgrading, then they can still transfer into an existing position, but it needs to be within their sponsor's organization. So meaning they can only transfer into a spot on the team that of the person that they are directly placed under. So for example, let's say that you enrolled a wellness customer and you place them on your 3rd level underneath Amy to help fill in Power of 3 or something like that, right? And they wanted to upgrade on day 60. You'd either have to help them hold off for a month before they upgraded so that you could transfer them into an existing position anywhere in your organization, or they would need to transfer into a position within Amy's team. And Amy's on your 2nd level, so they need to, you know, transfer anywhere underneath there because they're directly placed underneath Amy, right? Does that make sense? Now, a wholesale customer, when they upgrade, they don't need to transfer into an existing position. I'm just speaking about how a wholesale customer would apply in a transfer situation. So another note, anytime you're transferring somebody into a position, make sure that you bridge the gap. If they have a team established underneath them, sometimes the people underneath them are more advanced in their knowledge of essential oils or in their knowledge of this business. So instead of just kind of throwing them to the wolves, you want to make sure that you edify them, you train them, maybe do a couple 3-way calls and bridge that gap so that the team underneath them doesn't feel like they just got abandoned and given to somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. And likewise, they build this mutual friendship and respect. So make sure that you take a couple steps to do that, because that's really going to ensure better success of someone transferring into that position. So another option that we can look at is termination. So when somebody decides to terminate their account, then everything underneath them bumps up. So in some cases, if there's a couple established builders underneath this flat tire, so to speak, it may be best to have those builders underneath them bump up and become separate legs instead of transferring a new person in that has less experience than these established builders, right? So you might want to look at that scenario and see if that's best for you. Now, in order to do this, they have to email placements@doterra.com. That's where all of your placements or concerns are going to go with their termination request. So they're going to immediately disappear from your back office after that happens, and their enrollments will become yours, but their team will not bump up for 6 months. And so they're going to be considered the same leg until they bump up, which means that even though you have enrollment of, you know, let's say there's 2 or 3 legs, even though you have enrollment of all of them, you can only qualify with one of them for your rank because they're still considered part of the same team, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Let me see if I forgot. And just the reason why they do this 6 months thing is it prevents any cross recruiting for people. So if that, one side note to make here, if that account that is terminating is a silver or above, then they actually have to wait a year before they can reactivate instead of 6 months to prevent that cross recruiting. And the reason why this is really important to know is because if they are a silver, then their team will not bump up until after a year unless you submit an exception after 6 months requesting that they bump up then. And as with any exception, it's going to need the 7 signatures, right? But this exception really is likely to be approved. doTERRA is happy to do that if you follow all of the exception requirements. But just know that if they're above silver, it takes a year for them to disappear off of your organization. So make sure that you get that exception in after 6 months. Now, the next option is a swap. Now, this might be a situation where that person is kind of like, I like my oils, I like ordering, but I really not, willing to build this team. Or maybe you've placed their other 2 legs underneath them and they're kind of overwhelmed by that, and it's more of a responsibility that's burdensome versus something that motivates them. But they might have somebody underneath them that is, really excited and better suited to build that team. So they can submit, it would be an exception request to placements with all of those 7 levels of your upline signature. Along with that exception request, you need to have assigned 2 transfer forms. So each of the 2 people that are going to be swapping needs to sign it as the transferor on one and the transferee on the other. So there should be a total of 2 forms, right? They're the same transfer form. And the reason they need to do this is because when they swap positions, all of their enrollments are now going to belong to the person that they swapped with, and all of that person's enrollments are going to now belong to them. So that's why they also have to sign the transfer form, because they're transferring out of their position. And so that's what's required. And then along with any exception, you need to explain the reason why the swap is going to be better suited, so that doTERRA can justify the exception. Now, they won't approve any multi-generational swap. So it has to be the account right above them or right beneath them. You can't skip a generation. You can't swap your level 1 with your level 3. It would need to be level 1 with level 2 or level 2 with level 3. You just can't skip any levels. So the next option that we have is a transfer of enrollment. So maybe they still want to build, but their current circumstances are preventing them from doing that at the moment. But if there's an active builder underneath there, then your current qualifying league can give you enrollment until that builder is ready to build again and they have, they achieve a set rank. Then you can give back the enrollment. So to do this, the enroller just needs to email placements. And that email does need to come from the email address that they have listed on their doTERRA account. It can't just be any random email address. So make sure that some people have multiple email addresses. It needs to match the one on their account. And they just need to send a request asking to transfer the enrollment of the person, their name, their wellness advocate number, and transfer it to you, your name, and your wellness advocate number. Now, an enrollment is normally allowed to be transferred to someone 1 time. But there's an exception when it's returning to the original enroller, then it can be transferred a 2nd time. So this allows you to replace that flat tire builder with your spare tire for a little while, and then you can continue on your journey and you're qualifying with them until that original builder is ready to rock. Or in some cases, maybe they never plan on building, but they don't want to give up their position. So the transfer enrollment would be the best option. And then that's going to be your new qualifying league. Now, some people get kind of worried that they're qualifying with someone that's not on their front level. So I want to tell you, honestly, because of dynamic compression, this doesn't really hinder your commissions at all, other than your Power of 3 bonus, right? And that's a different discussion, completely side discussion when we talk about dynamic compression. But I just want you to keep in mind that you can qualify for Diamond with a silver on your 15th level. And as long as there's no silvers between you, then you'll earn just as much, if not actually more, because of that dynamic compression. Now, if a silver pops up between you, then it changes things a little bit and it's a different story, but I just want you to understand that so you don't really worry. If someone's not going to build, they're not going to go past Elite or Premier, then having an enrollment that you qualify with a little bit lower in your organization is not a bad option at all. In fact, it's a really good option. A lot of top leaders have that. So that might be something that would be best for you in this case. Now, let's look at maybe some other things that we can do to feel momentum, right? Because if we have hunks of volume just laying wayside outside of our qualifying legs, then it's kind of like living 50 miles from the nearest gas station. It just takes so much extra effort to fuel your momentum. And people are asking you to help them, but they're not really on any qualifying legs, and your qualifying legs are struggling, so that's where you have to focus. So maybe look through your organization and see what you may be able to do to consolidate some of that volume so that they're on a supported team that has more focus and attention put on them. So, you know, you can look through and see maybe which teams might be maybe it was your first event or something, and you've just got a leg of really supportive people like your grandma and your sister and your neighbor, and they order to help you, but it's just this random leg of 400 in volume. That might be a good exception for you to move underneath another area in your team where they're consolidated, and it's going to fuel the momentum of maybe that leader that you place them underneath, and they're going to be able to grow. Now, doTERRA doesn't like to make exceptions to place volume underneath a leader that's not enrolling people. So we might be tempted to say, oh my gosh, this is my weak leg, nobody there is doing anything, and so we try to move people underneath them. doTERRA is going to look at that and go, well, I don't know how this person is going to be better supported because the person you want to sponsor them under is not enrolling. So I don't see any activity there. You want to kind of look at that and take that into account. Sometimes they might come back and say, as soon as this person enrolls 2 or 3 people, then you can move them. They just want to prove that they're going to get support there. But that's something that you can look at. You also want to look at maybe any inactive members that you have on your team. And inactive means anybody that has not ordered for 6 months or more. Once somebody hasn't ordered for over 6 months, then they can move. They can change sponsor and enroller if they want anywhere in the company simply by sending an email into placements@doterra.com, letting them know where they want to move. So I kind of keep an eye, like a watch list, on people that maybe haven't ordered for 4 months or so, and I just touch base with them and let them know to contact me before ordering because I have some great promotions when they're ready. And that kind of opens the door to some more conversations, and we talk a little bit about it, and sometimes it's just like, oh, I forgot to order, I've been meaning to get some more things, or whatever. Or they might let me know, well, I still have my kit that I enrolled with, and it's still sitting here, I don't know what to do with it. And so that tells me we need to give them some better support, and maybe we schedule another wellness consult, or maybe they never got one, and we kind of go through there and get them reactivated. Now, we don't really want to go hunting for other people's enrollments that are going inactive, right? We can help our teams do that, but we're not trying to cross-recruit an inactive person from our own team on one leg and move it to another leg. That's really just bad form. We want to make sure we're fueling our momentum and we're not taking it away from anybody. But keep an eye on these people that have been inactive that maybe we can reactivate and get ignited, and maybe the timing just wasn't right. I know a lot of people that go inactive for a little bit, and I reach out and we talk about maybe some promotions we're doing or specials, or we talk about the vision of where we're going and whatnot, and they're ready. The timing is better for them, and they're like, I'm glad you called, I've been thinking about it, I'm ready to go now. And so that can be a really great way that you can feel momentum and get things kind of moved around. You also want to look at your wholesale customers. Any of them that have been enrolled for 90 days, they can upgrade to a wellness advocate, and they can get a second move from that. Now, wholesale customers are a really amazing opportunity for you to enroll people that just want to use the products and use them to fill in your Power of 3 or maybe some rank volume, but you can't build underneath them. So let's say maybe you were using them to fill in your 250 Power of 3. But obviously you're not building underneath them, so they're not helping towards your 1500. So you start, after a while, you've got your structure in place where now you're getting your 1500. You might go back to these wellness advocates, and even if they don't want to build, it might be a good idea to offer them a free bottle of oil to upgrade so that you can move them to now where they're helping with your rank or 1500 or whatever else. So really take a look at those wholesale customers that are, that qualify for a second move if they upgrade, and look at maybe any volume there that you can place. The other thing you want to look at is taprooting. Where do you see movement? Where do you see some people that maybe they've been ordering LRP every month for, however many months? You might touch base with them and see how they're doing, see if they have any questions, do some customer appreciation things, and maybe offer an incentive to them to host a class. There's a lot of people that become builders that didn't know they were going to, but after they've been using oils for a while, they're like, yeah, I know people that would like these oils. Sure, I'll host a class. They get a free diffuser or whatever it is that you want to incentivize them with. And maybe it even leads to a discussion with a business overview, and you can talk about that concept. And there's so many people that will pop up in your organization where maybe their specific enroller wasn't really dedicated. Maybe they went to a class where some mom down the road had a class, but she wasn't really building. It was more of a hobby for her. And so they weren't exposed to the support or education on what's available to them. So make sure that you reach out and connect with them, because you might find a diamond right there in the rough, just waiting to have somebody support them. And then you might have that conversation of transferring enrollment or whatever else, where they might spark the fire in their enroller, and your whole team, you know, gets ignited with that momentum. So we want to really take a look at these different options of what we can do to help ignite that. Now, in this process, what I want us to do is sometimes we get frustrated and just realize that your unilevel commission is going to be the largest part of your compensation. If you talk to any of the top leaders in the company, our bonus pools are amazing, but unilevel commission is really the largest. But it takes a little bit of time to grow, and sometimes everything doesn't come together exactly how we need it to be, especially if we have to rebuild legs, or if we have people that we're supposedly building that now are like MIA, we don't even know what happened to them. Just realize that it takes a little bit of time. Just like it takes 14 hours to build a Toyota, it takes 6 months to build a Rolls Royce. So it might take, you know, a month or two to hit Elite or Premier, but it might take a few months longer than that to get to silver, gold, platinum, diamond. It's part of the journey. So make sure that you're just enjoying the ride and looking through your organization to see what things you can do to maximize your volume and help create the most just the biggest fuel in your team. So hopefully some of these tips have helped you so that you can go and help your team and your leaders kind of scour through their organization and see what things we can consolidate for a more efficient and effective plan that creates more momentum of us all going together in the same direction. So thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.